but I was guided into this area where a bright light in the distance began to get closer and closer. And as the light got closer and closer, it just encompassed me in a full way that's not really possible to explain here. It wrapped me in a feeling of total peace and comfort that I had never known before and have never known since. And as this happened, I rapidly began to ask questions. Now, when I say ask questions, this isn't in the way we communicate in this world. It was as if the second I began to think the question, the answer was given to me in a multitude of ways. I would know it from its history, for its reasons it was happening. For instance, I said at one point, what is the meaning of life? And this being, who I personally believe was God, or at least a representative of God, if not God himself, communicated to me not the word love, but the understanding of love, an understanding of love that I really couldn't have had before, because I just thought, well, love, you love your mother, you love your dog, peace, love, all that. But it wasn't that. It was a love that was total and all-encompassing. At another point, I asked about creation on other planets or other universes, other galaxies. Was this possible? And the second I thought this, I was transported. I can only think light years, but I didn't really know what time or space was. It wasn't like it is here. And I was transported to other areas where I saw people living. Some of them seemed to have like Roman garb on, and I can't remember some of the others, to be honest. I then was taken to an area where it was shown to me the creation of the world, and this was shown in a way as if a giant tablet appeared in space, and all the history of the world unfolded in me rapidly, yet I understood everything, and I was part of all things that had happened somehow. I was connected to this, and I could understand it. I could understand so many things so rapidly and completely that there is no way to explain this to anybody. And at some point, I realized I would have to go back. And I pleaded not to return. And I was told, well, you must return. And these beings around me of light indicated you have to return. There's very important reasons. I don't recall what they said. I don't know what the reasons were. But the next thing that happened was very powerful to me and has always stayed with me, as has the whole experience. Although this sounds egotistical, I don't know how to say it other than what happened. Millions, or at least thousands of these light beings surrounded me and began to sing. And when I say sing, they were making music of a beauty that was improvisational and full and complete, like I've never heard in this world. And they were basically praising me and sending me back to do God's work. And at that point, the next memory I have, I woke up in a bathroom in this apartment I was at, and I began to look around for a razor blade to slice my wrist. Now this might sound very desperate, but it wasn't that sort of thing. I simply said to myself, I have to return, I want to return right now. I found a razor blade, and as I did, a voice very clear and distinct said, no. And at the second that voice happened, somebody said, I think he's in here, and the door opened, and I dropped the razor blade, and I went on with my life at that point. I went to my wife. She wasn't my wife, she was my girlfriend. She later became my wife. I was 17 at the time, and explained all of this. But I had no reference, nothing in life to compare it to. Remember, this was the early 70s, and so I really didn't have a perspective which I could place it in. Well, several years later, we had been married and had a baby, and I was in Denver, Colorado in the United States Air Force when I was watching TV during the day with my wife, and a person came on a show who was Dr. Melvin Morse, and I want to say it was like Michael Douglas show, one of these daytime shows, and he began to talk about a book he wrote, Life After Life. And as he talked about it, I jumped up and I yelled, "That's what happened to me." Finally, there was somebody who documented what had happened to me, and I realized it had happened to other people. Well, now in this year, there are obviously hundreds of thousands of these documented cases, of which I am just one. But that experience was a pivotal experience in my life, and it really took me many years to incorporate it into my life fully, and in many ways I don't think I have. I'd like to say I went on to become a fantastic person and a great spirit in this world, but I really don't believe that's the case at all. I have so much work to do in that arena, I think. But it happened, and I think it probably happens to everybody. It either happens sooner or later. In my case, it was sooner for whatever reasons.